Hey guys, Pete here. This is going to be my 10 things you might have missed in Twin Peaks Season 3, Episode 11. If you haven't watched it yet, this is your spoiler warning. You're going to want to click away. So yeah, this was a fantastic episode like I talked about in the recap and review. And there were a ton of things that popped out on the second watch. Some of this stuff I saw online after the fact too. So let's jump right into it. The first one I teased in my other video. I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole. I talked about the staircase and seeing it before where we saw the three woodsmen and the vortex, after Gordon was there for a minute. And this is something that I've been waiting for it to pop up because it was in that It's Happening Again trailer that came out right before season 3 started. So in the trailer, we see someone, it looks like someone's ascending the staircase, right? But there's obviously no woodsman there in that part. So this is a location that we haven't been yet, but we're probably going, which makes it extra exciting. Now, a lot of people thought it might be at the Palmer's house. It is definitely not the staircase at the Palmer's house, in my opinion. If you look at them side by side, they're set up differently. If you look at screen grabs of this one, you can see the walls are kind of grayish green and there's some like patch painting on it. And someone on Reddit actually lightened up the part where there's a little color burst, like they're shown in negative almost at first where everything looks white, and right before it cuts back to Gordon there's a little flash of light. And what people are saying is this is the same wallpaper as the picture that old lady Tremont gives Laura in Firewalk with Me. Now you see this comparison here. I didn't make this. I just grabbed it from a Reddit thread and it looks pretty compelling. Also in the bright version of it, it almost looks like there is there's definitely a shape on the wall, but it almost looks like a mushroom cloud. And as I mentioned in my recap and review, to me it looks like the guy on the left side is holding a gas can. So there's a lot going on in this little image, and I'll leave it at there for now. But yeah, it's definitely worth looking at a lot closer. One more quick thing about this is that some people are speculating that this may lead to the meeting room above the convenience store. And I think that is definitely a possibility, but I don't know how to draw any more parallels about that right at this moment. It's just a good idea that sounds good. So definitely worth a little bit of speculating on that for sure. The second thing you might have missed was that the woman that Steven's hiding in the staircase with is in fact played by Alicia Witt, who was Gersten Hayward, and we have to assume that she still is, who was Donna's little sister, one of her little sisters that we all remember from episode 8 playing the piano. So why she's in the staircase with Steven and why Steven was over at her apartment and why Becky shot up the front door is all still a mystery. The third thing you might have missed, her neighbor who pops out to tell Becky that she no longer is there, like that they just left, is actually a cameo as well. The neighbor is played by Lauren Tews. I think that's how you pronounce it, Tewes. And she is familiar maybe if you watched The Love Boat. She was on that TV show back in the day. The fourth thing you might have missed was Gordon shaking hand, and I honestly did. Saw this brought up a couple places, and then it hit me. I remembered this from the original, from season 2. Now first let me say, I'm not sure if this is related, but this happened back in episode 20. There was an older woman sitting at the Double R eating a slice of cherry pie, and we see her hand start to shake. Later in the same episode, Cooper is looking out a window at the police station. I believe he was looking at the Owl Cave stuff and he was trying to think, and he starts to shake. And then one last time, Pete Martell, as he's wiping a tear from his eye, as he's watching Audrey and Jack get in his plane, his hand starts to shake like crazy, a lot like how Gordon's was. So that could be related, it could be a callback, or this could just be the after effects of what happened to Gordon when he was at the site. So the next thing that you might have missed is something that I saw on Twitter almost right away, it seems like, after the credits rolled. But in the scene where the kids are playing catch, the older one who has the speaking role is actually Mark Frost's son, Travis. So that's a pretty interesting little thing. So yeah, if you look at the credits, it says that he's Boy playing catch, and it is Travis Frost. The sixth thing you might have missed is, and this I caught on the second time when I watched, after I already knew what was going to happen in the episode, when I saw Tony looking in on Bushnell and Dougie Coop. In case you hadn't thought about it, the events as they played out at the end with the Mitchum brothers not killing Dougie, but actually befriending him, that means that the responsibility for killing Dougie Coop is squarely on Tony Sinclair's shoulders. Remember, that was a straight order from Duncan Todd. If this doesn't work, then you're responsible for killing him. So at the end of the episode, we now know that Dougie Coop has a new assassin on his trail, and we're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. The seventh thing you might have missed was that the numbers on the photo that are of Ruth Davenport's arm, they may have been doctored in some way. A lot of people pointed this out. I mean, this scene, like I said in the recap and review, is kind of weird all the way around. Like the way that they hold the picture, the way that she mouths the numbers. Well, a few people pointed out that under the very first set of numbers, there's basically like a clean spot. So the thinking here is that maybe Albert doctored the photo or literally changed the numbers before he took a second photo to see what happens with Diane. I can't tell 100%. I mean, it looks like there's other weird spots and the end numbers are smudged. So let's discuss that in the comments. The eighth thing you might have missed, and really this is kind of superfluous in a way because it happened on Twitter, but maybe when you were watching and you saw Carl in the Carl-mobile and everything else, you might have had an idea that he could be a Bookhouse Boy. So someone on Twitter had that same idea, and they asked Mark Frost basically if he was an honorary member, and Mark Frost responded that he is an original member. So that is pretty massive. Now, I didn't personally do the math on the ages and everything else. I mean, I know the Bookhouse Boys came into existence around the time of World War II. So I'm just going to let all of that slide. I'm not even going to fact check it because Mark Frost said it, right? So that is pretty interesting. It gives a little context to that whole sequence with Shelly there. And yeah, like I said, I can't get enough of Carl Rod. I want Carl Rod involved in everything. And I'm super excited to learn that he is most likely an original member of the Bookhouse Boys. The ninth thing you might have missed was that the piano player was not credited, and there was a lot of talk after the episode because he played a pretty big part there. And, people were wondering if it was Angelo Badalamenti, which I'm sure I just butchered that name. Himself, the guy who composes all the music, and it didn't look like him. So with no credits, everyone was kind of trying to figure out who this guy was, and a couple people recognized him, a couple of his friends, and it turns out that this guy's name is Robert Smokey Miles, and of course all the actors have to file a non-disclosure agreement, so they can't say who they are until they actually show up on screen. So he heard about it, and then some people talked to him, and he got called at the last minute, I guess. And he said that, he sat down at the piano and David Lynch directed him, and it was in the most interesting, personal, and deep way. And he said he created a mental picture for him to play soft, romantic Italian music with his eyes closed, and he did a couple takes, and that was it. It's also interesting to note that he didn't hear the song that he's playing here. Like, it hadn't actually been written yet. So she just basically set the mood for him, and he sat there, and it turned out great, I think. So very cool. And the 10th thing you might have missed is one that I have mentioned in the recap and review, but wanted to bring it up again. Whenever Detective Mackley calls for backup, he tells them the address, and it is on Sycamore. We're guessing it's Sycamore Street or Sycamore Road, whatever. He doesn't say, but, it's a callback and possibly a tie-in to Glastonbury Grove, which is a stand of sycamores. Definitely interesting. And someone asked in the comments, I can't remember who the name was at this point, but they mentioned that didn't we see something about Sycamore in Las Vegas too whenever Dougie Coop first got driven out of Rancho Rosa with Jade, and I just went back and watched that scene, and sure enough that was the case. So we have a reference to Sycamore in Buckhorn, Las Vegas, and Twin Peaks itself. So that's it. There were a couple other ones that I wasn't 100% able to verify. I don't really know how I feel about the stuff with the staircase as far as the flower pattern. I mean, obviously that's pretty huge if that is the same wallpaper. But the images I have of it, I can't make that out at all. So I don't know. Of course, in the photo I used, I mean, it definitely looks like it. So it's just a matter of whether that's a good photo or not. We never really got a full story about that. I mean, obviously she had Laura hang that in her room. The door was open, and then we saw Laura sort of pass through that at one point. But we know we never saw Laura in the room above the convenience store. So what does it actually mean? That is where the speculation comes in, I guess. But yeah, this episode was awesome. I've watched it a bunch. I've rewatched a bunch, some of the scenes several times when I was doing the recap and review and taking notes. And yeah, I mean, things are getting closer. I mean, in the timeline, we're 2 days away from this event that's supposed to happen at Jackrabbit's Palace. So I'm pumped up for what's to come. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Check out my other videos. People have been asking about the Log Lady intros, and I will eventually do that. The actual Log Lady video didn't get a lot of views, though, and it seems like when I make current events, like things that are going on with the show, those are doing better right now. So I'll have to find a point to fit it in. What I'm thinking about now is maybe something about the map. There's a really cool theory about Dougie's time being slightly off after passing through the mob zone, which I might look at. And also, the new episode titles are kind of fun to guess about too, so maybe I'll do like a video about those things on Saturday. But yeah, that's it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and my other social media accounts. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon.